We got some news to get to, so stick right here and find out. Welcome to Niners Central, where we're going to be talking about the latest news. Nick Bosa had his contract restructured and created nearly $17.1 million in cap space. This is huge. Absolutely huge. Because now this pushes the 49ers cap space up to $46 million. We are officially the top team with the most cap space left to spend. But the thing is, this is not just waiting to carry over $20 million for next season. So that way there's a gap. You know what I mean? Niners always do this. Every offseason, they'll try to carry over enough cap space for the next season. Which the Niners next season, based on over the cap, are going to be over the cap space. With some restructures and the future, cap space increase. We don't know what that's going to be. It could be between 20 and 25 million if it keeps growing the way that it is. But that is huge. $47 million. If you're rounding up. It's going to end up either being 46 or 47, just depends on which place you go to. But this move was not just to carry cap space over. There definitely is going to be some moves that are coming next. My bet is that they're waiting to sign Joey Bosa to pick an edge defender. I also think that they're probably trying to maybe increase the cap to mitigate some of the $10 million that Trent Williams is going to be getting. I do think that they're going to be trying to restructure his contract. Hopefully he takes a lesser amount, but my bet right now is that it's getting frustrating for both sides. And I do think that the 49ers, now that they have the interior pass rusher with Osa Odighizuwa, I probably butchered his name, but moving forward, we still have to get one more defensive tackle. We have to address edge. The secondary, specifically our safeties, need to get addressed. Like, you're not moving into the next season with the safeties we've got. Malik Mustafa, I think, is pretty good, but Jair Brown, you're not moving into the next season with him starting. Like, I'm sorry, but Jair Brown he's struggled. I do think that this year they could end up going for a safety in the draft. Hopefully they pick one up a little sooner, but we'll have to see. With the compensatory pick that was supposed to be a 5th round and moving into the 4th round now, and I'm just kind of backtracking to the Joey Bosa. They won't sign Joey Bosa before the draft, because if they sign him to a larger contract, it could affect the compensatory picks that we get, and it could push the 4th round pick that we got to the Buffalo Bills. And the 49ers, they value those compensatory picks pretty heavily. So they may sign Joey after the draft, which would put him onto a cheaper deal. And from the news going around X and on the news is that he is really wanting to play with his brother. He's made quite a bit of money. He wants to win a Super Bowl. The 49ers are loading up. They brought in two freaking offensive linemen. They're much bigger than the guys that we've had in the past. And probably going to be drafting a left tackle. My bet would be Kaden Proctor at left tackle. Move him over to compete for left guard. it's a constant reminder to Trent, hey, we have your replacement sitting right next to you, so you can either take a cheaper deal or we can release you and you're not going to get anywhere near the money that we're willing to pay you. Pretty good strategy if you ask me. Some of the players we've signed, Nate Hobbs, 6 feet, 195 pounds. He's a big guy. My thing is that I think he's probably going to play slot. Stick him in that nickel position would be perfect for him, especially with Raheem Morris, because Raheem Morris, he values bigger defensive backs, bigger, faster defensive backs. And if he's going to be trying to move the 49ers secondary away from the zone coverage and letting them kind of man up on people, get up in the receiver's face, you need bigger DBs. You're not going to freaking be pressing a receiver that's 6'2" with a DB that's 5'9". I'm sorry, I'm 5'8", 200 pounds. I'm not going up against a dude that's nearly 4 or 5 inches taller than I am. That ain't winning. Longer arm reach, dude's got probably more weight. At least most receivers, you would think, that are 5 inches taller than me would have more weight, but some of them don't. But the offense is looking like it's moving in a positive direction. They've signed 2 offensive linemen. They've signed Mike Evans, which is a plus. He's a little on the older side, but he has the experience. He's not fast, but he's got the size. He's got size and weight to out-muscle other DBs. And if you look at the way that Seattle won those 2 games, the first one in Week 18, and then the one in the divisional round, they were able to bully the offensive line. And our receivers were slow. They were slow, and they couldn't out-muscle the DBs. And when they did catch the passes, they were swarmed. They were quickly stopped before they could start getting that yak. So, in my opinion, I think yak is dead in the way that we knew it. We've never had a true X receiver. Mike Evans brings that. And I think what we're going to be seeing is a more downfield passing attack, similar to what we saw last year. And I honestly think it's going to be highly effective because, if you look at when Shanahan was with Atlanta, they did quite a bit of downfield passing. Brock's arm is probably not as good as Matt Ryan's, and you're probably not going to be seeing him push the ball down the field like 50 yards or beyond that. Nothing like Aaron Rodgers or goddamn freaking Josh Allen. But if you're talking about downfield passing, 20, maybe 30 yards, that's still pretty damn good. You don't need to sit there and go for these home run 60-yard bombs. As Joe Montana once said in an interview, that 60-yard bomb is not always going to be there. I'd much rather nickel and dime you up the field, because a 10-play drive is just as demoralizing as a 1-play drive. And that's coming from a 4-time Super Bowl champion. A dude who numerous times had driven down the field to win big games. And that's the thing that I say I would judge quarterbacks on. I don't judge a quarterback based on whether they can throw a 60-yard bomb or they can run for 1,000 yards in a season. I want to see, what can you do when the game is on the line, when the team needs you most? Are you going to sit there and be desperate and throw a 60-yard bomb that's probably going to be intercepted last minute of the game? Or maybe get lucky and your receiver catches it for some amazing freaking play that's going to go down as a great play, but it's 1 in a million? I'd much rather take you methodically moving down the field than just trying to toss one into the end zone and hope that you can win. As we said in the Marine Corps, it was don't spray and pray. Aim to where you want to go, and that's it. So I think the offense is going to be definitely much better this year. I do think that we need to address running backs. I don't think that the running backs we have currently are going to be effective enough to be able to stop Christian McCaffrey from taking 100% of the freaking snaps. Do I think Isaac Guerendo should probably be higher? Yes, I definitely do. He should not be below freaking Patrick Taylor Jr. and the other running backs that we got. Like, I'm sorry, but this dude runs a 4.3. I mean, I know he struggles with, carrying like ball security. That's something you can work on. And he's not going to work on it. He's not going to get better if he's not playing. And pass protection is something that he needs to work on. But the thing that we missed last season is those explosive plays. And in 2024, even with the team having a losing record in 2024, the thing that we had explosive plays. Isaac Guerendo had explosive plays. He showed flashes. And I get it. Some people don't like him. I know John Chapman mentioned that he's not overly fond of IG. And, I respect his opinion. To each their own. He doesn't think he's going to be a pan out. I know Larry Krueger doesn't think he's going to pan out. I do. We can all agree to disagree. I think that he's going to pan out. I think he can if he's given the opportunity. He's never going to be able to develop that vision if he's constantly just in the backfield. Like, if you get what I mean, like he's in the back. So I do think that we need to address also receiver. It's not just Mike Evans. We do need to address the receiver. I will have a mock draft coming up that I will post. It really depends on which ranking system you go to. I know some of the more common mock drafts, which are done on a particular website, it's based more on fan rankings, and I tend to place less faith in fan rankings than I do in official rankings. Fans, sorry, but I'm either going to go with ESPN or The Athletic, something that has got their nose in on what teams may be doing. ESPN tends to be a little less accurate. They value players a little differently than The Athletic. I thought maybe Chris Brazelle would be at our number 2 spot, but based on how The Athletic is going and how ESPN is ranking the players, Chris Brazelle could be off before we even get there. And we may end up having to take a receiver a little sooner than where that receiver is valued. So Jacobe Lane is somebody that I think they might also target. I don't think Casey Concepcion is an option. I think he's not going to be in the first round. I don't think he'll be drafted in the first round. I think he's going to probably fall to the second. And if he does fall to the second, he's probably going to be gone before we pick. Now, that could be wrong. I have done some of the mock drafts that I haven't posted them yet, and Casey Concepcion is there, but it's few and far between. Like, I've done 5 already, and out of the 5 that I've done, when it comes to like fan rankings for the mock drafts, he tends to fall. But if you're doing The Athletic or if you're doing ESPN rankings, he tends to be gone. I think I've only had one draft where I saw him present, and it was either him or Chris Brazelle because both of them were there, and I was like, okay, I'm taking Chris Brazelle. I'm like, I'm sorry, but dude, I like taller receivers. I like those like Randy Moss type receivers, bigger. You either have to have some weight to you, like Mike Evans, like you're 6'5", 230 pounds, or you've got like that lanky build like Randy Moss, and you're just a deep threat at all times, where if you're on the field, you're double covered. It's that simple. And the receivers that we have, you can either go with speed or you can go with height and some speed. Everyone seems to be going with like KC Concepcion, who's a little smaller. I think he's like 5'11", maybe 6 feet. Depends on where they measure him at. But he's rather lightweight, and he is fast. But the thing is so is Seattle, is the Seattle secondary. They are fast. They're one of the fastest secondaries in the NFL. And when you got speed on speed, they're going to keep pace with you. And they're going to stop you from doing what it is that you're good at. Now, do I think KC Concepcion is a faster, can operate in that Debo role, but with more speed? Yes, I definitely do think that. But I don't think that's where Shanahan is trying to go. I don't think that teams are going to be able to allow him to do that, because they have stopped him in the past recently, in the 2025 and 2024 season. I don't think that using a receiver in that manner anymore is going to be viable. And we'll have to just see. I do think that maybe Kyle is going to be moving more towards that like Atlanta Falcons downfield passing, you know what I mean? When they had that Super Bowl run. I think that is more likely. To me, that seems more likely. And but we'll have to see how this offense goes. And another thing I wanted to touch on was the defense. Like, they've been loading up on defense. Osa, they've brought back Dre Greenlaw, Nate Hobbs. Like, these dudes are, I mean, you give them the opportunity. These are guys who, yeah, they might not performed with their last team, but also you have to look at the position that they were put under. You know, Nate Hobbs, 6 feet, 195 pounds, played best when he was in the slot or kind of moving outside where he could kind of shift. I think he's probably going to play in the slot, either the slot or your nickel position. Could do that. I think he'll operate perfectly with that. He's a big guy he's like about 6 feet. So the slot receivers tend to be much smaller. And if that's the case, you know, you stick him in man coverage and press man, he's gonna stop. He's gonna stop that receiver. At least give up. Hell, you push him off of his route, maybe 1 to 2 seconds. That 1 to 2 seconds is the difference between the defensive line getting home and sacking the quarterback, or struggling to get there at all. And given where, say, Matthew Stafford and, you know, Sam Darnold are at in terms of releasing the ball, they're trying to release the ball as quickly as they can. Hell, Matthew Stafford has one of the fastest releases in the NFL. So the point is you want to force him and Sam Darnold, and I'm only using these guys as an example because they're in our division. We have to face both of these teams twice a year. So we have to be able to force him to hold the ball longer. The longer he holds that ball, the more likely that Nick Bosa, Michael Williams, and Osa, and whoever else they bring in, you know, I'm hoping they bring in Joey, the more likely these guys are to get home and sack the quarterback. It's not just strictly about, his, you know, and like use Joey for instance. You know, it's not about just, he only had 5 sacks last year. Yeah, well, look at the damn defense. Is Buffalo known for a good defense, or are they known for an amazing offense? They wouldn't have brought Joey in if they wanted to improve their defense. The Niners have been known for good defenses since 2019. I'm not going to use 2018 and 2017 because they were rebuilding then. But overall, you know, this defense could be one of the better defenses we've had. I don't think they're going to be as good as the 2019 defense, but I do think that this team is going to be improved, and I'm extremely happy with what I've seen. I'm going to give them an A in terms of their off season for free agency. I need to see where they go in terms of the draft, and I will be covering that as well. I do hope that they address the offensive line, especially left tackle. I had them taking a defensive tackle in the first round, and I thought maybe Caden McDonald would be there, or Caleb. I think I have to look up his name again. I'm having a brain fart, but there were 2 defensive tackles that I wanted, and Caden McDonald was one of them. But I don't think that's going to be much of an issue. I don't think they're going to take a defensive tackle in the first round. Not anymore, not after this offseason. And I think more than likely, Kaden Proctor is probably going to be the one that we go for. And it makes the most sense. He's one of the top left tackles in the draft this year. If the Niners don't go for him, hell, at that point, your offseason is probably shooting down to a C, because again, you've done nothing to address the offensive line. I mean, yeah, you've brought in 2 guys, but that can compete, but you need that star. You need a star at left tackle. You need to be able to bring somebody in that's going to compete and eventually take over that left tackle spot, because no offense to Trent Williams, but I'm getting tired of his constant bitching and moaning about wanting guaranteed money. You know what, dude? Have you ever thought that maybe the reason why the damn team is struggling to pay so many players is because your ass is expecting freaking $38 million a year? Guaranteed? Homie, I get you're the best freaking left tackle in the game, but for the love of God, you alone aren't going to win us the damn Super Bowl. Hell, you've had the opportunity to show what you could do, and at least 2 games a year, you're freaking gone. And we still got no damn Super Bowl. So, I'm just pointing that out there. Another thing with this defense is Dre Greenlaw's back. I don't think that they'll be addressing linebacker. I think they got him on that 1-year, $7.5 million deal. I think that's more of a prove it. Like, hey, we need you to stay healthy. If you can stay healthy, we'll sign you to a longer contract. I'm really, really liking the fact that the 49ers are taking out insurance policies on these bigger stars. Bosa, Fred Warner. And I'm pretty sure they should have taken one out on freaking Kittle, given how often that dude's out. And with his injury, dude freaking tore his goddamn Achilles. I mean, I would have taken out an insurance policy, and to be honest with you, I'm hoping that that's what they did with Brock Purdy, because if he ever gets injured not saying that we want him to get injured, I don't want any of our players to get injured, but apparently it's the nature of the game. I don't, whether you freaking think it's the goddamn power station that's sitting next to the freaking practice field, or for me, if you think it's just Kyle Shanahan's, intensity at the practices, how often he practices, how hard he practices. How hard he practices makes a huge difference with their health moving forward. So, this offseason, I give it an A. Can we still improve? Yeah, we can definitely still improve. So, if you made it to the end of this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. We're also on TikTok at Niners Central. So, stay faithful, guys.